We're... How can we be serious after the intro on Carnival of Randomness? I don't know.
Carnival of Randomness.
But I'm very thrilled today to have his, guest host. Greg is somewhere in the ether. Maybe he'll
Greg, where are you?
But our music expert, and he makes a mean eggplant parm, Ken.
Good morning, everybody.
Can you please introduce your other people in the studio?
Okay, good morning. I am Ken Colombo from Rochester, New York. Thank you very much. With us today, joining us in the studio, we have, once again, from Rome, Italy, we have Margherita Rizzuti is here. And we also have new to the show today from, ready for this, drum roll please, from Brazil, from Florianopolis.
Hello.
We have Fernanda Nunes.
Hi.
There we go.
The usual map adverse Americans. That's not near Toronto. It's down farther.
Yeah, that's
We're very thrilled. We're musical explorers on this show, and I always like to, say, come on, try something new, try something different, and.
With the new and different today,
we're very thrilled to have. I was going to get there, Ken. What are you doing? I'm trying to be dramatic. We're very thrilled to have Alyssa Rodriguez in the studio today.
Alyssa!
Hello.
Now, you don't get asked about your instrument much, do you?
Oh, all the time.
But what brought you to... I always say instruments find people. How did the nickel harpa find you?
Yes, that is a very interesting story, in fact. It's a very lengthy story. That's not very direct.
Hey. Sorry. I like dramatic entrances.
Hey.
And Ken's all crying. You want to get all teary for me, Ken?
We'll go into... Go on, Alyssa.
We're going to break you of your habits.
I had no gas in my car. Let me tell you my sad story, folks.
What?
This is why it's Carnival of Randomness. There shouldn't be any more
It's only
interruptions.
11:30 first.
You two can
Yeah, sure. No, we're good. You put it wherever you want to put it.
Now
Are we going to start again?
No, we keep going.
You're just gonna edit all this
Carnival
out?
of Randomness.
Hey, Dan, go closer here.
Hey,
I'm sorry,
don't
I
get
know.
fresh.
Talk loud when you talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
But before there's a Deep Purple, so before we were so rudely interrupted, Alyssa, how did the nickel harpa find you? That's not usually the instrument like you hear about. What do you play? Nickel harpa.
Yeah, I always say it's really, really tricky to describe my instrument, but I found it because I got really into Scandinavian folk music because I lived in Ithaca, New York for my undergrad, and I came across Laurie Hart, who's a Scandinavian expert fiddle player in Ithaca, and she plays nickel harpa. I saw her at Porch Fest and I went, that's a cool instrument, but didn't really do anything with it for a few years. But I did start learning that music on the fiddle, Swedish music on the fiddle, and eventually that led me to the nickel harpa.
Can you enlighten me on what a nickel harp is? I have no idea.
Okay. Well, that's a good question. It's an instrument I will play later in this show.
I expect a good answer.
Yeah, I know. No, but it's Sweden's national folk instrument. It's a stringed instrument with 42 keys instead of like a fretboard or fingerboard. And it has 16 strings, so it sounds like you're playing in a concert hall at all times. So it's a very resonant instrument. It's the range of a viola, but you're often playing violin repertoire.
Oh, wow.
Size of a tiny cello. So I always say it's a violin, viola, cello meets piano meets harp. So,
But
many things.
It's a keyed instrument.
You said actually last night. I could see looking at it when you played last night. I can get that it's like sort of classified as a keyboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it has keys laid out that you play on, and if you look at the keys, some of them are marked with gold and some of them are not painted, and those are like your black and white keys on the piano. It has the same playing technique as a piano in that you stretch out your hand to play the notes. And nickel means key in Swedish, so it is the keyed instrument. Harpa is like a generic word for that.
Do you know, like, what is the history of this? I mean, you mentioned who invented it. How old is this?
This is my area of expertise, so
Thank
I will
you.
give you the shortened version.
It's not part of like a zither type family, is it? Or?
No, it's not a zither type family. That's a different instrument, which I'll talk about later, from Finland, the kantele.
Oh, okay.
But the nickel harpa is, I always say, pre-fingerboard technology. Because you look at this thing and you're like, why would anyone put so much wood into one instrument? So much wood. You got wooden dowels, wooden keys, huge wooden sound box for the body of the instrument. And this instrument goes back to medieval times, back when the violin it was like the predecessor of the violin. And it actually developed alongside the hurdy-gurdy. So it was pre-nickel harpa, hurdy-gurdy, and pre-violin, and they all kind of branched out. So the closest relative is actually the hurdy-gurdy to the nickel harpa. They have the same kind of keyed structure.
Wow.
I just can't imagine.
Here comes the hurdy-gurdy girl. I don't know.
That's a bad one. What in the heck you guys do?
Donovan.
That's Donovan, hurdy-gurdy man.
Yeah, hurdy-
And you know what? I think on that song, I'm not sure, but I think John Bonham is
there's
drums on that
because
one.
it was all session players. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah.
We do
Okay,
that.
we digress a lot.
I think it's the point of the show.
Yes, it is.
So-
You figured that out already.
Oh, yeah.
And I just was thinking about this, coming over here too. Just the creativity of the person. What was his name who invented it? You know, obviously.
Oh, yes. Well, he didn't so much invent
No,
it
he
as
didn't.
perfect it and get all of the credit. It actually
That's usual.
That's usually how it works.
Chords.
But yeah, Eric Sahlstrom was actually a radio host and many other things. Who popularized the nickel harpa. He kind of put the finishing touches on it. It was really him and his friend Augustin Bolin who decided that this predecessor to the nickel harpa, called the silver bass harpa, they just really wanted to play with the violins at the jam sessions, but they didn't have all the keys. So they said, let's add more keys.
What was the year that this was all put together?
1930s.
Because I looked at it in depth, and there's a ton of technology in that instrument.
Yeah, again.
There is a ton.
Yeah, it's typically these days the people who are nickel harpa makers are former engineers who retired to make these instruments because you have to be really precise to get all of these keys to fit. You'll see later.
What was the need that? What need was filled from? I mean, there must have been some reason why they wanted to make this thing. Was there some gap in instruments or something, or they wanted more of something, or something
this
more
instrument,
affordable, or what?
Well, this instrument is again fingerboard technology. So this is just a different this is the violin of the alternate universe.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So it's
Cool.
it's just a continued line that kind of developed in tangent to the violin. So it fit a need in that it was another idea that just kept developing. It started out with actually only one row and it could only play in one key, so it was diatonic, and it was a dance instrument.
Like a mode.
Yeah, it had
Or a mellotron.
one mode, I guess, and it was a dance instrument, and this was just what they had in this region of Sweden instead, because violin is an Italian instrument,
Right.
technically. So, yes, you have a question. I see,
What is the tuning? What is the tuning of the
nickel harpa or the really old one?
Either or. How did they?
The really old one, there's only speculation because it's so old. But the nickel harpa is a C-based instrument, and that traditionally it has two Cs. You have a C drone on the bottom, which is the same as your viola, C, then a G, and then a C. So if it was a viola, that would be a D, but instead we have a fourth between those two strings. So it's tuned down to a C, then open A. So same strings as a viola, but you just tune the D down to C.
But it does primarily drone. Would that be a note?
Previously, the really old instruments back in the day were drone instruments, so they could play loud enough because they didn't have the resonant
right,
technology.
right.
But now it's like a melody instrument. Yeah, you can create drones, and I'm sure Rob heard that last night a lot because you have that open string C. You can play any C melody with a drone. Sounds great. But the previous instruments were more like you had a button and it would make a chord, kind of like an auto harp kind of thing.
Right.
So
I was going to say
it kind of
like
changed
that.
to be. It is a chromatic instrument. It's called the chromatic nickel harpa. So it developed to compete with accordions. Is actually what happened.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
I know accordions came out and suddenly the melodies changed and suddenly nickel harpists just couldn't play all the notes, so they added more keys.
But you've got completely different methods of producing sound between an accordion and a nickel harpa.
But they're both considered folk instruments. So the accordion was brought over.
I didn't know that about the accordion.
No,
It was a folk instrument?
Yeah, because they were really cheap to make. I'm assuming it's similar in Sweden. I just came back from Finland and took a history of folk music course there at Sibelius Academy. And I thought it was really interesting that accordions in Finland were brought over from Russia when they were ruled by Russia in the 19th century. So that completely changed the scene again in Finland. Previously, the violin had come like 100 years ago, and they didn't have any violins before that. So every time a new instrument comes, like the music and technology changes to go with that.
Excellent. I have another question. Pick me.
You.
Yes. Okay.
Ken has
So
the floor.
now has the instrument met 2022? And by that I mean, have you ever taken the nickel harp and run it through a series of pedals or treatments, or like we see the guitar players doing? That kind of thing?
I haven't, but there are electric nickel harpas. I know a friend who has one. I think that's great. It has like the hollow body, just like an electric violin or guitar, and it's like just the keys, no resonator strings. But yes, you could do that. I just haven't done that yet, but I plan to.
It would be kind of cool.
I don't even know. Is there really like sort of a concise definition of folk music? Because like Louis Armstrong said, everything's folk music.
Oh, it's from people, and people are folk, so I guess,
Lay down.
We could get into a deep conversation about this.
Go ahead.
This is just the running joke of my time at Sibelius. Is the students would always ask, "Are we going to have another conversation about what is folk music?" Because you can the conversation never ends. Because when you think of folk music from an American standpoint, you think of like Bob Dylan and singer-songwriters.
Right.
But then there's also the side of folk music that's like traditional music that's like has some kind of like cultural, nationalistic. It could go on forever.
Well, that goes all the
but
way
folk
back
music
to
is of the people.
The lute and all that other stuff.
Goes
Back in the
back
day.
to banging on drums.
Friends of mine played Scarborough Fair at the Little recently, and I was talking to Cara afterwards, and she said, Cara's story, and she said that I'd worry about how I play, and I said, don't worry about it. This song's been around for centuries.
Yeah.
You think it's played the same? And I would love to see, like, from the first version, how the original from this, it's almost like if I tell you something, I tell you something. By the time it gets to the end, it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's telephone.
So don't worry. How do you play precise? We don't even know what is precise to it. Like, what do you want to go back to, like the 1600s?
Yeah, well, that's the beautiful thing about folk music is I feel like there's so much flexibility compared to like someone coming from a classical tradition where things are written down and this is the composition, this is how it goes, and it's often really difficult as an educator to teach that folk music is flexible. What you see on the page is just one version of hundreds, if not thousands, because every player who plays folk music is going to make it their own in some way. There's going to be these telephone variations, and that's part of the game.
There's even like the story that Greensleeves, there's the myth maybe that Henry VIII wrote it.
What?
There is. Look it up. There's like
is that right?
Which you can look it up. They don't know though. Who knows who wrote it though? It's like
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like anonymous.
Everybody
and
knows
all these
traditional
contexts.
wrote it.
Yeah, traditional wrote it. Yeah.
traditional's written a
That's what it
lot.
says on
got it.
every.
All right.
That's what it says on every page.
Yeah.
I have a question since we're talking about this. I have a question for Fernanda. In your hometown, were you when you were raised? Did your parents play any traditional? No. Traditional music in the house? Any?
Yeah, Brazilian.
Yeah.
Yes.
What kind of things did you listen to?
I listen a lot of international music, but Brazilian songs I listen more like when I go out with friends, like funks. It's like teenage music. Yeah, and
But
I don't know.
not so much of the old style.
sometimes, yeah, like Mamonas Assassinas is a very famous band in Brazil that they died. No, like old.
Who-
Yeah,
What's the name of the band again?
Mamonas Assassinas.
Mamonas Assassinas?
Yeah. I have the very famous song too, like Garota de Ipanema. you know.
I missed that one too.
No.
You mentioned.
Is it the girl from Ipanema? Is that what
Yeah,
you said?
yeah.
Oh, the girl from Ipanema.
Yeah.
I'm
She
sorry.
was saying that. She was saying that.
I didn't know have a name in English.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so
The
cute.
Bossa Nova Bradley brothers would play that one.
I
enough
know,
for
I
me.
know.
I didn't know like
Long
have
and
it.
tall and up and yonder.
Yes, this
Girl
one.
from Ipanema goes walking. Oh, everybody sing.
Nice.
Thank you, Maestro.
Oh yeah, but I know the Portuguese version.
That's
And
my
you said,
favorite.
Alyssa,
Wait, let's hear. Do
There's
you know
like-
the words?
Yeah.
You do?
Ooh,
No, not the whole.
Portuguese.
A little bit?
Não, era olha que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça. E vem de
Andy,
passa.
Andy.
Something like this.
That's great. That's great. So, you were raised with some of the. As a
Yeah.
child, you did get some of the.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Well, did your parents play instruments?
My dad knows how to play guitar.
See?
And it's like a lot, like he really likes music. So like he never had classes to learn.
You did it.
But he listened a lot, so he knows, like he learned by himself how to play a little of like guitar.
Self-taught.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Very good. How about mom?
No, my mom doesn't have the talent.
She plays the radio.
Yeah.
that's the best. I do too.
She plays the Apple Music.
The Apple Music.
No, but
mom plays.
Alyssa, what did you start off playing? I don't think you started off playing this, did you? What was your first instrument?
I still play violin. People always ask me how long I've played violin. Now I can say, well, 20 years, my whole life.
Wow.
And there's also, what's the big nickel harp? You mentioned it last night a lot. The big nickel harp group now in Sweden.
Oh, it's not. This is not
Not-
now. This is like at least 30
okay,
years
30
old.
years ago I had
Vessin,
5.
everybody knows Vessin.
That's the one.
I mean, they're still touring, but as a duo now. They were a trio for many, many years. I mean, the oldest albums I see on Spotify, which may not be even their oldest albums, are from like 1992. So, I mean, how many years is that? That's like about 30, right? Exactly 30.
30 now.
Yeah, Jesus.
Wow.
Oh,
So,
jeez.
I'm sure
Sorry.
they've been active
Edit.
before then, though. Yeah.
She's looking, that's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago.
30 years.
Well,
a
that
long
blows me
time.
away. You know, it's like I've got teenagers back in the house again, and then you start to look at the years of like, holy crow, and the time has just marched by. It's been a little bit disheveling.
And I don't know if you put out this album Chicory, which is really good.
Oh, thanks.
But and I've noticed it's also obviously the nickel harper is popular in waltzes. Is your
Oh,
Val-
yes, I
your
was playing a lot of
Valentina's
waltzes last
here.
night. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not just popular in waltzes. I just like waltzes. So I know
So
a
then
lot
you
of
make
them.
it popular in waltzes.
I do, yeah. Yeah.
What would a set of tunes be? And forgive me, I haven't been out in a while. I haven't seen you perform in a while. Which, you know, shame on me for sure. Especially, and I talked to Rob about this. I would have loved to have gone last night, knowing that you were also with.
It was kind of a last minute advertisement. so
Yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But what would a set list consist of for you? Would they be all traditionals or anything
Yeah.
covers? Any covers that modern day kind of things?
Define cover and define modern day.
Yeah.
I did for Fringe play one tune that's traditionally from Norway, but I play it after a certain player, Amelia Amper, who's an amazing nickel harpist from Sweden. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting her and taking a lesson with her. But she has a great album that's called Magic Bird, Trollfågeln, I believe is how you say it in Swedish. And I played Magic Bird as the close to my set because it's a really cool Norwegian tune, actually. And as Scandinavian musician, I can hear the Norwegian dance that they do.
Yeah, I'm going to take a left turn here. Now, you have mentioned Scandinavia and Finland and Sweden and so on and so forth. Some people would be named like Francophiles, folks that are enamored with France and so on and all things French and so on and so forth. Are you like really have an affinity for the area in Sweden
Yes.
and
I
Scandinavia?
don't know the word for that, but yeah. I feel like there has to be like a Nord head, a Nordic head.
A Nordhead?
Come up with a word for
There's
Scandinavian.
no word for it, really.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Scandinavia version of that.
A Findophile.
Findophile. Well, that'd just be specifically Finland. I like all the Nordic countries.
One of the
but
funniest like stories I have from there was when I was in Helsinki, and I was in Helsinki. I don't even want to say it now. 1990 90.
30 years ago. Oh, okay.
But you get at the airport in Helsinki.
32, yeah.
This was like in January, and the first time I've ever seen it, they had like flamethrowers to clear off the
Wow.
the ice.
airport.
Yeah.
Really?
Because
Oh, they
ice.
changed that.
But
okay.
they were having a big debate about the country of Santa. Was it Sweden or Finland?
Country of Santa?
Yeah, they were saying home of Santa Claus, and Sweden was saying they were the home of Santa Claus.
Oh my God.
We must fight about something. That's the cool thing, I suppose.
It is a huge part of their tourism. The funny thing is, Lapland, which is the region you're
Lapland,
talking
yeah.
of, actually goes across 3 countries. So, or maybe actually it might even go into Russia because it is home of the indigenous Sami people. So really it belongs to nobody. But everybody wants to claim Santa
Well, it's
Claus.
a beautiful sight just from the airport, though, too, because you look out, it's perfect winter scene, and you go, we're not in Kansas anymore.
No, this is in Helsinki, right?
Yes,
You're
it's
talking about,
Helsinki.
yeah. Well,
And I love, like, the whole hotel we stayed in, because my professor very into European history, and he made sure we stayed. We didn't stay, like, in a Holiday Inn or anything. We stayed in a very traditional hotel that has, like, the spiral staircases.
Ooh.
And it was really...
must have had a sauna too.
Yep.
It was funny as you guys are talking about this. I'm remembering as a kid back in grammar school, we used to have these two folks come in. There were the Buttons. Their last name was Ken and Bertie Button, and they were travel people. I mean, they were probably retired, but they traveled all over the place. And they would do these wonderful films, and then they would go to the schools after they had done all their traveling, and they would do travelogues. Here we are in Finland, here we are. And you had mentioned Lapland a few minutes ago. I can vividly remember them showing the pictures of the reindeer and the Laplanders with those headgear that they would have and the natural or the
Yes,
the
that's the Sami people.
costumes.
That's a traditional Sami costume.
Yeah. And it's absolutely still in my memory about they would go to was it the country with the tulips? Dutch,
Amsterdam.
Netherlands.
right? Holland. And they had all the tulips photographed and so on. And this is when kids. You didn't go on vacations like that back then.
What I always just didn't like either is like when you would see tourists. I'm not a tourist; I like to be off-road. But you would see people like in Helsinki. Okay, you're in this beautiful city. I admit I had hair then; it froze when I went outside. It was like -12. But what do? I try to find traditional things. They go to Pizza Hut and McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah.
In Russia, there's a long line around the block to go to McDonald's.
Not anymore.
Oh my God! When the KFC opened in Helsinki, it was a riot. There's one KFC that opened this past spring, and like people were like, waiting for hours.
Can
to
you
get the
believe
KFC.
that?
Well, you gotta
Yeah.
realize that's a novelty, though. There. I
Oh,
mean,
of course, I totally
I mean,
understand. It's
but
just
I
funny
think-
because
and
here
people
it's so
like
standard.
familiar stuff. So unfortunately, I think a lot of us here, especially in this country, nobody wants to take any chances. They don't want to eat weird food or what. You know, everybody. That's familiar. I know what that is, even though it's not the best. But I think that's part of it. But when you live there and you haven't had that, that's a big deal.
Oh, so a
Because people
question
cook a
popped in
lot
my
in those
head because of that. Are you into any of the cuisine from there? Can you cook it? Can you?
That's
have a
tough
favorite?
stuff. That's
Yeah, I miss it. I mean,
Yeah.
I just can't get it. I didn't learn in my time how to make pulla, which is like the cinnamon roll.
I
There's
tried
many
to make.
kinds of
I tried
pulla.
to make the Norwegian bread. It's like this rye. It ended up looking. It took the whole oven. It
Oh, wow.
spread out,
oh no, this
and they use a lot of dill, like in terms of bread, like in some parts of that area. I killed the tape talking about Swedish bread.
was the dill that got
A lot
it.
of dill, huh?
did it.
That's
So we're
interesting.
picking up. This is the kind of this has happened before. That's why we're random. We're ad lib. That's why we get paid so much for doing this because we have to ad lib.
Yeah,
and
right.
Learn line taming on the
So
side.
what was the traditional stuff you said you never learned to make? Or you
Oh yes, pulla. They have like at least 4 kinds of pulla. I'm not sure if Rob had pulla while he was there, but you can get it. It's like a cinnamon roll, and they have several types of them.
Oh.
And I learned all the Finnish names because I would go down to my little
Sounds
cafe
good.
at the music school every day, and like there's this thing in Sweden called fika, which is like coffee time at 3.
Okay.
They have the same thing in Finland, so like I'd always come down at like around 3 o'clock to do like my work at the music school, and I'll be like, I want my kavya pula, which is coffee and bula. So you got your cinnamon roll and your coffee every day. It was very nice.
The afternoon boost, right?
Yes, exactly. Now I cannot live without this afternoon coffee. So
You know, that was the thing when I did that tour back in 1980 or so. I went to Europe for a couple months and played, but different countries, Norway, Sweden. I went to Norway and Switzerland anyway. But the whole afternoon, okay, everything stops. I just really was enamored with that. I just thought that is the greatest idea, because you work a little later in the day, but your afternoon, you're not dragging your butt.
that's exactly how I felt. I loved that they had the coffee and cake time, and then we were all more alert until 6.
Yeah,
We worked a little later.
We're so high strung here that nobody's like go go go. You know, and nobody wants to stop.
Fernando, do they have that also in your town?
No.
Nobody sleeps in the afternoon?
No.
Some people probably do when they don't catch them doing it.
That's right. In front of their computer screens at the office.
But Alyssa, how did the whole Fulbright thing come about?
Oh, well, I applied to study at Sibelius Academy because that's been my dream for many years. And I originally wanted to compile many different Nordic countries' music into a resource, but ended up just being Finland's, A, because of the pandemic, and B, because you need a lot of time to do that, and only had about 9 months. So I applied for that in 2019. And I got it in 2020, but then it got delayed.
Sure.
So
I wonder
started,
why.
I know.
Talk about it. I don't know.
No, but it's funny because that also delayed me getting my nickel harpa because I had commissioned it in like March 2020, and I was like, yeah, I'll pick it up in September when I get there for my Fulbright, and that didn't happen. But I did pick it up a year later in September.
They're all custom made, one of a kind kind of deal?
You can only commission it. Yep.
Yeah.
People,
you can't go into a store and buy
you
one.
can't go to the nickel harpa store. You gotta know a guy. And you gotta know a guy and know his work. I wish there were more woman makers, but right now it's only guys.
I wonder if John Bernunzio knows
I'm
about
actually,
this.
I don't know. I just have a thought in my head. I want to go see Armin at the House of Guitars.
He wouldn't have one.
No, John Bernunzio.
They'll
That would be a
find
good
one.
question.
It would be a good question.
But this is also, however, we talk about in terms of finding interesting music. How do you ever find a pipa player? I know how, but you could tell.
Well, I met O because...
Pipa, by the way, she'll yell
It's
at me.
Pipa, yeah.
She'll yell.
I met her because I saw her at the market and I saw her at Lala Crest. I'm like, oh, another folk musician, so nice to see. And then I emailed her out of the blue like, hi, we both play weird world instruments. Can we be friends?
That's an awesome line, by the way.
Yeah, right?
Well, rather, we should collaborate is what I emailed.
Right.
But basically, people are like, oh, how'd you meet? I'm like, I just emailed her and said we should be friends.
That's perfect.
But yes, but we just played a show at the Little last night, and people always go kind of bug-eyed when they say pipa and nickel harpa, but it sounds really great. You got the plucked and sustained, and it sounds really nice together.
It goes
actually.
together like peanut butter and jelly, I suppose. I can't be any more like...
I'll take a look. I'm hoping against hope that someone put up a little bit of a video. That folks do that. Hopefully.
I never do, so I just never...
You do.
We only have our solo sets, I think.
I don't even
but-
like, I take one picture, I might put it up, but I always don't want to bother the musicians. I figure...
No, I was a pain in the neck. Every time I'd go out, I'd be taking pictures and shooting video, and which was good because it was, promoting and marketing and so on for the folks that were performing and drawing attention to them and whatnot. So it was all... But not having been out in a little bit with all of the post-pandemic, et cetera, I got to rekindle that habit.
Yeah, a little bit, just,
Little here, a little there, that's right.
It's worth it. But when did you record Chicory?
Yeah,
Is
that,
there-
that was... It came out in February 2020. I think I recorded it in December 2019, actually.
I've called the nickel harp in my own layman's terms like the duck-billed platypus of instruments because I just picture, because I was thinking of the creativity of whomever did invent it or it came together. Mm-hmm. Imagine it's like almost going to like a scrapyard and going, I'm going to take apart from this. I'm going to take apart from this. Mm-hmm. Let's see how it sounds.
Do it.
Why not? Benjamin Franklin event. I can't think of the instrument. It was a weird instrument.
Harmonium? Benjamin Franklin?
Oh,
maybe, but
this is the
Beethoven,
glass harmonica.
The glass harmonica, yeah.
Wasn't it the glass harmonica?
I think did Beethoven and somebody else compose like one symphony using it?
I don't know about that.
We got to fact check.
Yeah, we'll have to do a fact.
But I'm pretty sure it's glass harmonica. I could be wrong.
Could be.
Right, Benjamin Franklin was the glass harmonica.
But I just love the thought behind it because it's not like, okay, a lot of times I think music originates because you find something to play. I can bang this, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that somebody with that mind going, okay, let's do this, put this here, see how it sounds. And I wonder how much trial and error went through it too to find something, because they played the first time, well, that doesn't sound very good. It sounds like a souffle collapsing or something. Here.
Yeah.
So our pro is looking it up, I think.
Yeah, no, I wanted to see. You got my interest peaked on the glass.
But what is coming up next? You say you're releasing another album soon?
Hopefully, it's chugging along very slowly.
That's
There's been a
all
lot of
right.
things. There's been a lot of things going on since I came back from overseas, as far as transitions. So, but yeah, I hope to be recording a few tracks in October, and we'll go from there. I have some I also recorded in Finland that I'm getting mixed.
Which is very good. Ken, what have you found?
Yeah, no, in fact, the glass harmonica was invented in 1761 by founding father Benjamin Franklin.
Yay!
So we're totally good there. Fact check.
Do you have like any? I really love classical music, but I'm not great knowledge except for reading the lives of great composers. Do you have any favorite Sibelius works?
Favorite Sibelius works? Well,
Or what do you
For-
like? I hate that number one thing. Just like, what did you first find interesting?
yeah. Well, the first symphony actually holds a very special place in my heart because they played it at Ithaca College while I was there. But I feel like I just like most Sibelius. I actually had his entire collection in my old car for a long time. I was very into it when I was a junior in college. And so I know, like, I always be like, oh, I recognize that. That's a Sibelius because of that time in my life. But right now, I don't think I have any particular favorite. Just the first has a special place in my heart.
But this is very enlightening and interesting, and thanks for being on. And we're gonna, Ken, anything else to add? Greg?
No, I'm good. What about you, Greg?
Well, I had a fun time last night. I played out in wine country there on Route 14 at the Tin Barn.
Cool beans.
Which is a very, very cool place, man. Very, very nice. They're great people. You got a view of the lake right there as you're playing.
It seems to be a lot of venues that are open.
A lot of wineries doing
Yeah,
it.
They stay open till like 9 o'clock, which is odd for out there.
but pretty soon I got to believe all of them are going to be shutting down now with the weather,
Yeah.
right? All these venues that have popped up down in the southern tier and the Finger Lakes area and whatnot.
And where could we, if you want to get which you should get this, it's really good.
But I want to
Hey,
hear this. I'm very interested. In
Yeah,
I've never
yeah,
heard
yeah.
of
Greg's
anything
interested.
Well, I've never heard it.
But do you have a
so
site or anything? Or just gets us when you play?
You can get it at my shows. I have it as part of my merch table, but you can also get it on Bandcamp under.
There you go.
Alyssa
I admit
Rodriguez.
I'm not really good with the technical stuff still.
No
like,
worries.
That's why we're
You can also just go to my website, alyssafiddle.com, and you'll find
There's
a
like-
way to get there.
That was like the best part. I saw you. Hey, do you have a CD?
Bring some, to Record Archive. They'd probably put them out for you.
Oh, they will absolutely do that.
Pop shop.
They will do that as well. They have a whole section when you first walk into Record Archive that is dedicated to local artists.
CDs, not just
Yes,
records.
yes.
You'd actually be perfect, actually, for like Bob Stop Music Series. 'Cause Tom's always looking for different stuff.
Right.
Yep,
yeah,
yep,
him
yep.
too. Bob Shop and Record Archive.
I actually saw, I have to do a little plug. Charlie Ballantyne was this jazz musician from Indiana. And I love Kurt Vonnegut. So what does he do? He has an album named Vonnegut. And I told him, it's all on the songs. And I told him, go down. If you make a left out of the Bob Shop, go where M&T Bank is. You'll see a plaque. It's where the real Billy Pilgrim was born.
Oh, jeez.
And he's like, I'll go see it. But he wrote, and so we were talking about, he was just fantastic. And it's like when you see somebody, you just get blown away going, how great. But speaking of that, Alyssa was going to play for us, which are really, so what would you like to play? You can play whatever you want. Just tell us what it's going to be.
Oh, I
Or
have to
surprise
decide.
everybody.
I'm going to surprise
Or,
everybody.
okay, we're going to surprise you.
All right.
So
You know what? Somebody's going to be out there going, I know the Nickel Harper well. I recognize it.
It's
looking
been done.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
But thank you very much, Alyssa. Thank you.
Thanks for having
I
me.
don't want to butcher your name, so like Ken said.
Fernanda!
There was something in the air tonight.
See, I did the same thing.
He's been teased. Isn't that horrible when there's like a song? written
First
like
time
that?
we were
It's the
driving
first
away
thing
somewhere,
you
I'm
hear.
singing up, there was
But
something
it's just
in the
here.
air.
Brazil, no one sings
No one
the song
does?
for me.
Oh, they don't know ABBA.
No, they know.
Do they know
Oh,
ABBA?
they know. Yeah.
You
Well,
knew
thanks-
about like I
We love
knew
Mamma
about-
Mia.
Thanks again for being on, Alyssa. Make sure you check out when she's playing. It's great. You'll have a fun experience. And if you ask her a question about her instrument, she's probably heard it before.
Yeah.
But thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank
for having
you.
me.
Enjoy.
My name's Alyssa Rodriguez, and I'm going to play a tune for you on the nyckelharpa from Sweden. This is Andakten, which is a piece by Eric Sahlström, who invented this instrument.